Okay guys, are we back? Are you guys back? Okay, so anybody has any questions before we kind of start summarizing? No questions? Okay, so what I want to do is just kind of recap for you quickly, because a lot of the concepts I know, some of the concepts at least may be new, but I think you should grasp the essence by now, and kind of tomorrow we'll drill deeper down into a lot of these and adopt more of a kind of data-based approach to understanding reliability and improving reliability and performance in your organization. Okay, so just to recap, reliability, what is reliability? What is reliability? It's got two components. What is reliability? Yeah, it's kind of, put simply, it's functionality over time. And time. There's those two components. So it's kind of, well, the number of times you get it right over the number of times you do something, but do it over a time period. Okay, so reliability is kind of, 99 out of 100, that's reliability. We get it right 99 out of 100 times over a certain duration. Remember, in the concept of management, we actually talk about unreliability. So unreliability is 1 minus 99 over 100. Okay, in this case, it's going to be 0.001, which you write as 10 to the minus 2. Okay, 10 to the minus 2 means your unreliability rate is 1 in 100. So you're getting it wrong 1 in 100 times. Okay, so remember that. So we discuss reliability, unreliability. 0.9 is reliability. We get it right 9 out of 10 times. We get it wrong 1 out of 10 times. We get it right 2 out of 100 is minus 2. We get it right 999 out of 1,000. We get it wrong 1 in 1,000. Okay, so and 10 to the minus 6. Okay, 10 to the minus 6, 1 defect per million. Okay? HROs operate at this level. Okay? HROs operate at that level. Okay? Defect rate of 1 in a million. Now defects, as I said, errors, deviation from normal, etc., that's what this refers to. So it could be anything. Waiting time that surpassed the mean, the waiting time or the number of errors in the collection of files, completed files. We'll go over a whole lot of stuff tomorrow, but what that means is to be classified as high reliability, you're only allowed 1 per million, okay? As we said earlier on, most of healthcare, most of public services operate around 10 to the minus 1. So essentially for every 10 events, 10 episodes, we're messing up at least once. Okay, we have a defect. Healthcare has defect rates that would average, I would say 10 to the minus 3, but would include 10 to the minus 2 and 10 to the minus 1. There's some things we mess up every 10 patients, sometimes every 100 patients. But I told you in general, it's 10 to the minus 3. So most organizations operate at 10 to the minus 3. High reliability, which is this kind of distinct high performance group of organizations, operate at 10 to the minus 6. That's kind of where we really want to be, okay? So remember that. Remember 10 to the minus 6 is equivalent to 6 sigmas, okay? 10 to the minus 1 equivalent to 1 sigma. Remember a sigma being standard deviation. So remember that we now have to start getting into the whole mode of doing some kind of managerial statistics, of collecting data and analyzing them to help us manage, okay? Manage towards high reliability. And as I said to you, one of the simplest things you can do is collect specific data. Now, the kind of data we collect will determine what are the things we prioritize in our organization. This may be stuff like waiting time, which is kind of simplest, or correct completion of documentation, or correct identification, or whatever it is. Those kinds of things that we choose are determined by organizational priorities. So what is it important in this social services office? What is it important at provincial level and at national level? And those are the things we choose, and that's what we measure. As I said, in healthcare, they made it pretty simple. They gave us 7 things to look at. They gave us safety to look at, so we can choose some safety metrics. We got a hand up there, okay? Patricia? Go ahead, Patricia. Patricia, you have your hand up? Sorry? Not important.
It's sorted now.
Oh, it's sorted. Good. So healthcare, as I said, they made it important. They gave us these 7 things to look at. It's patient safety. We look at medical errors and stuff like that. It's timelessness, more specifically waiting time. It's effectiveness of care. How many times we give the right treatment. How many times we do the right diagnostic tests. It's efficiency. How efficient are we? How cost effective are we? It's equitability. Do we actually offer the same level of care to every single person? We look at patient centricity or patient experience, and then we look at staff centricity of staff experience. So those, in the context of healthcare, are pretty much the kinds of things we measure. Now, social services, as you told me in session 1, pretty much similar. So we can kind of create these key areas in which to marshal and shape our reliability. Okay, so we have to kind of collect data based on that. When we collect data, I'll talk more about this tomorrow, but essentially what you're going to do is collect a set of data irrespective of what that is, okay? Waiting times, number of files collected, proportions, ratios, whatever you're going to collect. So you're going to sit with a pool of data. You're going to sit with a pool of data. You're going to have You're going to have a number of data points here. That may be 100. You're going to then use one of that link we gave you, another one to calculate the mean and the standard deviation. Okay? The standard deviation is the sigma mark. So the mean may be 25, standard deviation may be 3. Okay? All of this, remember, you have got by pumping in the numbers into that calculator that's online, it will spit out to you the mean, median, standard deviation. Okay? And then what we want is to use this to give us a sense of where all of these data points lie. Where are these individual data points lying in that control chart? Because remember, we can't manage an average, but we can manage looking at a control chart to look at the variation. Are there any signals in that variation? Are there any special cause, or is this just normal? How stable is the process? Okay, so remember we put that graph up. That would be the mean, and then we have 3 standard deviations up, 3 at the bottom, and this is kind of where we want to be. We want to be within 6 standard deviations. Okay, within 6 standard deviations. That's where we want to be. Okay, so you can have your data points all over the place. These are all these data points that we have mapped here, and we can connect them if you want to. Some may be above, some below, but this is kind of what it would look like. Okay, so you can see some will be tightly controlled at plus minus 1 standard deviation. It just means that the process is pretty stable. But at times there will be some kind of variation, but all still within the 6 standard deviations. We may have issues where it's way above 6 standard deviations and way below. These require special attention. We now need to understand what went wrong and what can we put in place to bring it back to that within 6 standard deviations. We may also find data within those 6 standard deviations, within, like this one. You know, it may have 6 or 7 data points that are constantly going up. Now, if you are preoccupied with failure, that's what you're looking for. You're looking, are there any trends that suggest that the process is becoming unstable? That there's a kind of sequence of increase in wait times. There's a sequence in the increase in the number of incompleted files. You know, that's what so we anticipate the stuff is going to be wrong. We're watching the data, and the data is suggesting, yeah, things are going to be wrong. We need to figure this out pretty soon. Okay? My point is, although we're within 6 standard deviations, there's a lot that we can learn from the data within that. You can't learn and see these patterns just from having a table with mean, standard deviation, and median. You can't. Okay? This kind of reliability and quality-based management requires what we call control charts. It's the kind of best way to look at that. Okay? Extensively used in high reliability organizations. Okay? I gave you the case. I showed you the case, the Tenerife air crash case, which is kind of, you know, the genesis of this move towards reliability. You know, what the airline started doing dramatically transformed the industry, made it safe for us. I mean, essentially that's what it did. It made it safer for us to fly than to cross the road. And as I said, a lot of industries emulated them, and ultimately what you get is an error rate that's lower than 10 to the minus 6. Okay, it's kind of where you want to be as a public service. And when you analyze these organizations, you figure out, well, there are 6 things that they do pretty well. And these kind of 6 things is what we spoke about before we took a break. One of them is this kind of preoccupation with failure. Two is a sensitivity to operations. 3 is this do not accept, they don't simplify. 4 is they're resilient. 5 is they defer to expertise. And 6 is they have this kind of communal learning. They learn as an enterprise. Okay, these are characteristics. Any questions about reliability and high reliability organizations. Any questions? You have to have some questions. It's a new concept for you. Are you guys comfortable so far?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes.
Just exhausted. Okay.
Not like
Okay. So what I'll do is I'll kind of release you. I know virtually it is a long time. You guys will get exhausted. But what I want you to do is kind of, you're going to memorize these 6 things. I want you to get used to just collecting data and working out standard, just kind of randomly simulate, create data sets, calculate standard deviations and try and plot it out and just randomly see if there's any information that you can glean from even a simulated data set, okay? Tomorrow what we'll do is we'll kind of get more specific and outline, this whole kind of reliability management process, what the process is, how do you do it, what the kinds of data you would collect, how to collect it, how to analyze it, how to present it, but you've got the basics already. And kind of, that's what high reliability organizations do. It's real-time data, real-time analysis. Can we use this data to figure out whether all our processes are stable and whether they're, going out of sync? Can they predict that something is going to be going wrong based on the data they have? Okay, so that's the plan for tomorrow. I just wanted to lay the foundation for you today about understanding this concept of reliability, and then more important from a management point of view, unreliability. Okay, unreliability, remember, from 10 to the minus 1 to 10 to the minus 6. We operate around 10 to the minus 1. Generally, organizations operate at 10 to the minus 3. HROs operate at 10 to the minus 6. Okay, and you know the characteristics of HROs, and we'll go more into that. Okay, do you have any questions before I release you? Any more questions?
Teboho has...
yes, bro.
Yes, go ahead, Teboho.
On the 6 characteristics that you indicated resilient. I know resilient is bouncing back, but I didn't get very clear when you explaining in terms of the scenario of the aircraft that was happening. If you can just explain that to us.
Okay, so that's kind of communal learning. They have a communal mindset. So let's assume you pick up an issue in your office that somebody has done something wrong and you do a root cause analysis and you figure it out. To the extent that you share that information to everybody within your office and to all other social services offices across the province, your region, the country, means they can all learn from your mistake. So they don't have to repeat the mistake. They can actually then implement a process or put in place a system to ensure they don't make the same defect or error that you did. That's what happens. It's like, and the example I gave you, yes?
That one I understood well. I was referring to resilient.
Sorry?
Number 5. Referring to resilient.
Resilient.
The number 5 characteristic, bro.
Number 5. Number 5 is defer to expertise. Number 4 is got resilient. Now the order doesn't matter, but these are the 6 things. I'm not sure. What is the question, Tabo? Resilience is this ability to come back. It is because we anticipate something is going to go wrong, because we're preoccupied with failure. Okay, we are sensitive, so we understand our processes well. We also anticipate something is going to go wrong, and we put in place a strategy to prevent that. Means that if it does go wrong, we can react. That's what it means. So resilience is this ability to come back after a disaster, a defect, after an error. That's what resilience is, that you can still keep going, you can come back. The only reason you can be resilient is because you've anticipated, you've planned for the failure, and you've planned what to do in the event of a failure. So if you look at natural disaster management, societies are resilient because they have that in place. In the event of a pandemic, we can do A, B, C, D, E. It doesn't kill us off. We can come back. That's what resilience is.
Okay, thanks, bro.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions? Good questions. Any other questions? I think we should clarify it now. It's important. It's going to become part of your vocabulary and hopefully part of the culture moving forward. Yeah.
You gave us a -1 rating.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering as to how much would you give to the SAA?
Well, SAA is non-existent, but as an airline, we're classifying them as so SAA has managerial issues. Okay, remember these are operations. We're talking about operational issues here. So they will get the same credit as airlines would get in terms of reliability when it comes to flying. They're not flying now because of management and leadership issues, not because of operational issues. Okay? These are two different things. Yeah. Yes.
I want to try and relate what you have been sharing us with what we do in social development
Yeah.
in terms of the characteristics. I'm looking at our levels of intervention. Our number one could be the prevention programs.
Right.
And then we are saying if the prevention programs fails, then we should zoom into early intervention programs.
Right.
And they fail. That is when we will proceed to statutory programs or statutory level of intervention. And when we are in that, we also look into issues. If this child maybe was removed through court order, then we should also be looking into issues of family reintegration.
Yes.
Assisting the child or whoever to go back to the family or to the community. So I was just thinking about the characteristics when we talked of the resilience. They're coming back to say we have got systems in place to say we don't want like abuses to happen, but when they happen, this is what we will do.
Yes. Yeah, having contingencies because you've anticipated it. You now have. So I'm going to do this with you tomorrow. It's called failure modes and effects analysis. FMEA. Failure mode and effects analysis. So once we've identified, as you've outlined now, the process, that service delivery line process, as you explained, we identify everything that can go wrong, and then what is the potential impact if that goes wrong? And then based on what can go wrong and its potential impact, we then develop a mitigation strategy for that. Okay, so we know exactly what to do if that happens. That's what preoccupation of failure is we've anticipated it. So you can actually say preoccupation of failure or even anticipation of failure. It is, we've identified it as going wrong, and because the impact is significant, if it does go wrong, we need to have a mitigation strategy in place. What is our mitigation strategy? That is what leads to resilience because we've been through that process. Okay, so exactly that. Good point. That's exactly how we do it. Now, when we map the process, there can be several things that can go wrong. Some of them have a very serious impact and some don't have a very serious impact. So we look at the impact and we also look at the frequency with which something can go wrong. Okay, if something can go wrong often with very serious impact, then that's essentially a crisis situation, okay, which requires a dramatic change in process. You may have something that the impact is insignificant and it happens rarely. We don't waste energy into putting a mitigation strategy in place for that, okay? So we have to kind of categorize it. When we do failure modes and effect analysis, we have to categorize the failure modes, from serious to not serious. And then we focus our mitigation efforts on the serious failure modes. Any other questions? Good, really good questions. Any other questions? Any other questions? You guys are good?
Yes, Prof.
Okay, so if you find no further questions, we'll catch you tomorrow at 9 o'clock. I'll recap everything we did very quickly, and then we'll go into actually the measurement and analysis and give you more experience with data collection, data presentation, etc., etc. So, it's not very complex as you saw. Collecting data, calculating standard deviation and mapping it is not rocket science, but you've learned a very critical management tool today. Okay? But practice it. I'll catch you tomorrow at 9 o'clock. Have a good evening. See you guys. Bye. Bye.